Isang pagpalang hapon po sa inyong lahat. Ang lecture po na ito ay tungkol sa pagpapatuloy ng ating discussion tungkol sa Renaissance and Reformation. Pero since we're done with Renaissance, Reformation na lamang po yung tatalakayin natin. So, allow me to share my screen. So, actually, nakashare na yung aking screen. So, i-enlarge ko na lamang po. Okay, so basically, ang napag-usapan na natin ay tungkol sa Renaissance. So it's a period in world history na sinasabi na ito yung rebirth of learning, interest pagdating doon sa Greco-Roman culture. It was a period na niyakap ng mga tao yung kanilang individuality at yung kanilang potential. It was also a period na nag-start na i-question ng mga tao yung kanilang paninindigan, no? At saka yung kanilang yung pananampalataya nila kasi ito ay naapektuhan ng kung ano yung mga pinapromulgate ng Roman Catholic Church. During the Middle Ages, a very, very influential pagdating sa buhay ng mga tao. So the Reformation was a very important period kasi kung yung Renaissance ay nagbukas ng pinto, no, sa Europa para sa pursuit ng iba-ibang mga bagay na maaring hindi gusto ng simbahan, ang Reformation po ay totally talagang umatake doon sa doon sa principles ng Roman Catholic Church, especially centered on the issue of the indulgence. So, we're seeing now sa screen na ito yung causes of the Reformation in the 16th century. So, pwede natin siyang tingnan sa context ng social, political, economic, at saka religious. So, pag sinabi nating social, allow me to read. The Renaissance values of humanism and secularism led people to question the church. The printing press helped the spread of ideas critical of the church. So, sa social, makikita natin dito na yung humanism, yung ideology centered on individual pursuits at saka yung pag-recognize ng human potential created yung tinatawag po na impluwensya sa mga tao na pwede silang mag-entertain ng ibang mga bagay aside from what the church already has dictated sa kanilang mga buhay. So it's a period na kung saan hindi na lamang talaga simbahan yung ine-entertain ng mga tao pagdating sa iba't ibang mga konsepto. Isama nyo pa dyan yung secularism, so another ism, another ideology, at ito ay patungkol sa mga bagay na non-religious in nature, independent of any particular religion. So, sa panahon po na ito ay, ayun, no, hindi man ito talaga sang-ayon or in agreement ang simbahan, pero ito yung panahon na talagang nag-e-explore yung mga tao tungkol sa iba't ibang mga bagay. And of course, these ideals were actually promulgated thanks to the printing press. At of course, yung Renaissance yun, yung iba't ibang mga bagay sa Renaissance were promulgated because of the printing press. Ganun din yung sa Reformation. Lahat ng mga contention ng mga tao, kagaya ni Luther, no, pagdating sa Roman Catholic Church, lahat ng mga gustong isiwalat o expose ng mga tao, lahat ng gustong itanong, were actually done thanks to the printing press. Mas maraming tao ang nakapag-isip-isip dahil mas mabilis nilang na-access yung information because of that. And that was revolutionary during that time. Pag sinabi naman natin political, makikita natin dito na yung mga monarchs, yung mga dugong bughaw, yung mga royal blood, they were actually critical of the authority of the Pope or the Papa. No? Kasi yung Pope, yung kanyang authority actually transcends yung mga established traditional boundaries at that time. Kasi when you profess, let's say, your faith as a Roman Catholic, regardless kung nasaan ka sa Europa, ikaw ay nakapailalim sa kapangyarihan ng Pope or ng Papa. Pero yung mga hari at reyna, no, may mga particular political jurisdictions lamang sila. So kung titignan natin sa usapin ng power, masaklaw no yung sakop ng papa. Kasi nga ang pinag-uusapan natin dito ay yung religious affiliation. So mas marami silang miyembro. Hindi katulad ng mga dugong bughaw, yung mga hari at reyna na may mga particular na kaharian lamang sila na parang gino-govern, no? So, yun. Sa usapin ng power relationship, medyo critical ang mga monarchs dito. Kasi, di ba, sinasabi ng ilang mga scholars na if we look into world history, we can look into world history by way of power. May dalawang tanong na pwede tayong i-consider pag pinag-uusapan ng power. It's the power over at saka power to. Pag sinabi nating power to, ano yung kaya mong gawin? No? At pag sinabi naman power over, kanino mo kayang gawin yung kaya mong gawin? So kapag nasagot natin itong dalawang magkaugnay na tanong na ito, we get to understand na in different periods in world history, makikita natin na yung mga tao talaga ay nagkakaroon ng tinatawag po natin na ugnayan na may kinalaman po sa kapangyarihan. Kasi iba-iba tayo ng exertion ng kapangyarihan. Kasi lahat naman tayo may power. Pero depende sa mga sitwasyon, depende sa context kung paano natin ito na-exercise. And in this case, sa political aspect ng Reformation, makikita natin kung paano na-challenge yung authority ng mga monarchs nung extreme power na mayroon yung head ng Roman Catholic Church. Pagdating naman sa economic, it's about recognizing the vast wealth na mayroon ng simbahan, and that is true up to this day. The church continues to be a very, very powerful and wealthy institution. Kaya yung wealth na ito, makita natin na nag-aano rin ito, nagpapakita rin ito talaga nung tinatawag po natin na prestige on the part of the Roman Catholic Church na for those na may ganun na ka-equal na kapangyarihan, of course, magke-create talaga ito ng suspicion. So yung political at economic on this slide po, magkaugnay sila sa isa't isa. Also, dagdag dyan yung saan ba nakukuha ng simbahan yung kanyang yaman? Of course, dun sa taxes na binibigay ng mga tao para patuloy na ma-perpetuate ng simbahan yung faith. Pero of course, fallible ang tao, kahit yan ay sabihin na natin na mataas ang katungkulan doon sa simbahan, nagkakamali yan at sila po ay, kumbaga, tempted din dun sa vast amount of wealth na mayroon ng simbahan, particularly ang Roman Catholic Church. And on the religious, makikita natin dito na, of course, every now and then, actually, totoo yan up to this day, na meron tayong makikita na mga balita or news about corruption scandals involving ang mga matataas sa leaders ng simbahan. Of course, to a certain extent, nagkakos ito ng disillusionment doon sa mga tao kasi, of course, iniisip nila na ang mga tao na ito ay men of God, no? At hindi nila inaasahan na magkakaroon ng ganitong problema internally. Pero nangyayari siya kasi once again, ang mga tao po, regardless of station in life, regardless of your occupation, regardless of where you are, depende sa sitwasyon, ito po ay nagiging prone to many things. Nagiging prone sila to corruption, depende sa sitwasyon. At kasama na po dyan, hindi excuse yung mga nasa simbahan po. And particularly, ang isa sa mga pinuna, kagaya po ni Luther, tapos yung mga sumunod sa kanya, ay ang sale of indulgences. Na maraming mga tao ang nakapunan na unfair ito dahil hindi lahat ay merong capacity to actually get yung pardon, to be absolved from your sins. Yun yung indulgence. Kasi hindi naman lahat ng tao during that time ay meron ng slot doon sa heaven dahil hindi mo kaya mag-afford. So, along the way, many people thought na that was unfair. Kasi nga, economically speaking, not anyone can afford to actually avail of indulgences. And they felt na parang it's about time na kailangan na tanggalin ito ng simbahan. Okay, so moving forward po, let's compare the teachings of Luther and the decision of the Council of Trent. I would like to highlight that you need to read your LGs from cover to cover because not all the details in this discussion will be mentioned galing sa LGs po ninyo. A lot of the discussions will also cover additional information that could actually help you when you answer essays po kapag long test. Pero it is your obligation, it is your responsibility as students na basahin po yung LGs from cover to cover kasi pwedeng lumabas sa quiz or sa mini-quiz kahit hindi na mention sa ating discussion. So, ganyan po tayo for the entire academic year. So, the teachings of Luther, nakalagay po dito na the salvation is obtained by faith alone, not works. Pero kung papansinin po ninyo, dito sa decision ng Council of Trent, it is a combination of good works and faith. By the way, no? So nakita po natin dito, one of the leaders of the Protestant Reformation movement. Tapos ano tong Council of Trent? So basically, itong Council of Trent was a meeting of church leaders, Roman Catholic Church, kasi they had to answer din yung mga ibinabato sa kanilang protesta ng mga katulad ni Luther at saka yung mga sumunod sa kanya. Kasi pag hindi nila i-address ito, magkakaroon sila ng problema internally, magka-crumble yung Roman Catholic Church as an institution. So they had to meet, no? They nagkaroon ng Council of Trent to salvage and to think about the future of the church at the time. And they came up with these, some of the provisions here ay yung napag-isipan po ng mga church leaders at the time. No? So, makita po ninyo, nag-start tayo sa salvation, malaki yung difference, no? Para kina Luther, no, at least sa Lutheranism ay faith alone could salvage or save you, no, pero para sa Roman Catholic Church is a combination of good works and faith. Pero first and foremost, so for the Council of Trent, the hottest issue was yung sale of indulgences. They've decided na talagang i-forbid na natin yung sale of indulgences. Pero if you will notice also, no, you're seeing now the screen, no, makita ninyo na may mga bagay talaga na hindi na-give in your Roman Catholic Church. Another good example of this would be the seven sacraments, no. The church will continue to adhere to the seven sacraments, which include the baptism, confirmation, consecration of the Eucharist, penance, the ordination of the clergy, anointing of the sick, and marriage. Kasi ito ay pininiwalaan nila na bahagi ng tradition ng simbahan at ito yung pagiging Roman Catholic talaga ng Roman Catholic Church. Hindi pwedeng mawala ito. Ito yung talagang identity ng simbahang Katoliko. Pero para sa mga Lutherans, for example, dalawang sakramento lang yung kanilang kinoconsider na pinakamahalaga at ito ay ang baptism at saka yung marriage. No? Also, nakalagay dyan that the church should not be a hierarchy of clergy but a community of believers. So, ito ay para sa mga Lutherans as opposed to a very hierarchical Roman Catholic Church. So mas pinupush nila yung community of leaders. Pero my personal note on this would be, I think helpful naman yung hierarchy. Kasi pag may hierarchy, you know exactly what your role is, no, in a particular organization. So I think na nagkakaproblema lang sa hierarchy kapag yung exertion of power ay pwedeng ma-abuse. No? Especially of those na naatasan or nabigyan ng task na mataas as compared to others. Kasi hierarchy nga, no? So, doon nagkakaroon ng problema. Pero hierarchy helps kasi nagkakaroon ka ng ng magandang structure, no, tungkol doon sa organization mo. Another thing, when it comes to religious authority, for the Roman Catholic Church, as per the Council of Trent, no, religious authority is found in the Bible, of course, no. The traditions of the church, kasi the church during this time was a well-established organization or institution already. So, meron na siyang na-establish talaga ng mga tradition. Ang tradition naman kasi, you don't get to establish it in just a year or two. No, matagal na panahon kaya ka nagkakaroon ng tradition. And the Roman Catholic Church during that time, mayroon na talaga siyang malinaw na traditions. Kasi in the Middle Ages, mahaba yung period na yan, talagang na-solidify niya yung kanyang structure. No? And of course, no, yung wisdom ng mga church leaders in the past. So yan yung writings of church leaders. No? For those of you na graduate at nakapag-aral sa Catholic schools, every now and then, we get to encounter different, let's say, quotations or different sayings from several books aside from the Bible. So marami sa mga ito ay galing sa mga church leaders talaga. And the church recognizes the authority and wisdom of its former leaders. As opposed to the teachings of Luther na sinasabi dito that the Bible is the sole authority pagdating sa source ng religious truth. So ayun po, malaki ang pagkakaiba. Also, no, the Latin Bible is to be used. Well, the Latin Bible today, meron pa rin naman yan. Actually, Latin continues to be the language of the church, pero the Bible has already been translated into different languages. Yung simbahan, of course, when you actually enter the church, kapag ikaw yung magtatrabaho sa simbahan, especially kapag magiging pari ka, tapos eventually may elevate yung katungkulan mo, mahalagang-mahalaga yung ano, mahalagang-mahalaga yung maalam ka or marunong ka talaga sa Latin. Pero ngayon, hindi na lahat ng mga tao marunong sa Latin, pero they know the Word of God kasi nga, it's translated into different languages. Pero during that time, papatuloy pa rin talaga yung paggamit ng Latin Bible. Pero para kina Luther, it's about time that the worship service should be in the language of the people for them to understand. So it's a way to democratize the Bible as well and democratize yung Eucharist, no? Yung service kasi parang it's about time na yung mga tao talaga hindi lang basta umaasa doon sa kung ano sinasabi sa kanilang higher ups nila, kundi sila din ay actively involved doon sa meaning making na ginagawa nila pag binabasa nila yung Bible. Tapos, lastly, no, this is very important, especially on the Roman Catholic Church, that the people cannot interpret the message of the Bible without the guidance of the Church. So it's very, very important that the people trust, no, trust the authority pagdating sa meaning making ng higher house pagdating sa Roman Catholic structure po. And to a certain extent, diyan critical yung mga katulad ni Luther kasi ayun nga, pwede siyang prone to a certain political agenda on their part. So, kung manonotice po ninyo, the sale of indulgences was made forbidden na after the Council of Trent, pero the rest of the provisions, makikita nyo, talagang naninindigan yung Roman Catholic Church na pananatilihin namin. We will maintain all these things because ito yung nagbibigay sa amin ng identity. No? So, of course, hindi sila pwede mag-give in to everything that the Protestants were demanding. No, kasi nga pag nag-give in sila sa lahat ng 100%, they would lose their identity. And that would mean losing face as well as a well-established institution. Okay, so moving forward po. So ano yung legacy ng Reformation? So it brought to the fore a number of religious, social, and political changes in Europe and eventually may epekto po yan to how things are today. Kasi nagkaroon ng napakaraming mga religious denominations mula sa panahon po na ayon hanggang sa kasalukuyang panahon. So nakikita ninyo that the Bible is interpreted differently amongst different religious denominations sa gumagamit dito. Produkto yan ng panahon ng Reformation. Each denomination has their own brand of understanding, yung mga nakasulat po sa Biblia. So, na-decentralize talaga, na-democratize talaga yung pag-unawa sa Holy Bible na itinuturing na most popular book in the whole wide world. Very crucial din, nakalagay po dito sa ating legacy, yung role ng mga educational institutions, no? In different levels yan, guys. Kapag nag-aral ka sa isang Catholic school or kung anumang school na religious ang nature, makikita mo na you are actually being taught no to think a certain way. Kasi mahalagang-mahalaga yung mga schools na ito and different levels kasi pinapa-imbibe ang certain kind of identity na very, very crucial to the perpetuation of that particular religion. Without those institutions na nagpupunla, nagtatanim sa buhay ng mga bata, for example, ng iba't ibang mga principles ng kanilang faith, hindi magpe-perpetuate ang faith po na iyon. Kaya very, very important yung promotion along the way, no, from the day of the Reformation, from the years of the Reformation up to this day, ng mga particular na denominations na ito ng education. Nakita nila na very, very crucial na magkaroon ng mga schools talaga promoting and promulgating their faith. Also, hindi ko na-highlight in red, the Reformation did not only shape the religious world but also steer the political circles in Europe at the time. And we can actually modify this by saying na it actually affected yung political situations of many nations in the world, no? Kasi religion continues to be a very, very important force in our lives, no? Lalayo pa ba tayo sa Pilipinas na sinasabi nila na may separation of church and state, but in reality, we can see and it is evidenced by so many things, no, na ang church is very influential to our everyday lives, no. Yung passage ng divorce bill, ng same-sex marriage, yung legalization ng marijuana, even yung usapin po ng euthanasia, yung mercy killing po, at iba pang mga bagay, one way or another ay contextualize ng understanding natin sa mga usapin na ito na contextualize naman ng kung ano yung finifeed sa atin ng mga kinabibilangan po natin na religion. No? So sa election, one good example as well ay bakit yung mga politiko, they seek the endorsement of church leaders. Because they believe na yung church leaders na ito ay pwedeng maka-impluwensya talaga doon sa isip ng mga tao. Kasi mataas ang respeto talaga natin sa ating mga church leaders kasi sila yung epitome of goodness. Sila yung epitome of goodwill. Sila yung epitome ng ng moral compass na gusto natin na mayroon sa lipunan po natin. That's why ang church, no, at ang religion in general as a concept po, talagang siya, influential siya sa buhay po natin, no, sa kasalukuyan. Kaya pag pinag-usapan natin ang religion, we're not just talking about religion per se. We're talking about the role of religion in a particular society at kung ano yung kanyang ginagawang impluensya sa iba't ibang issues na kinakaharap po natin. And of course, no, kasi makikita naman natin continuity ng mga bagay-bagay. Itong nangyari sa panahon ng Renaissance, Reformation, no, yung pagbubukas ng pinto for people to realize their individuality, tapos yung paglaban sa authority ng simbahan centered on the indulgences, makita natin na ito ay magka-catch up kapag sumapit na po, pag dumating na tayo sa period ng Enlightenment. Kasama ng Enlightenment, scientific revolution, na parang all of a sudden, people will start to lean towards science, no, to explain the things around them. No? But still, the religion component will continue to be very, very important. Pero meron ka nang gagamitin na science, no, along the way. Mas advanced na science to understand yung mga nangyayari sa paligid mo. You're seeing here a poster, no, of an investigation by the Boston Globe, no, yung Spotlight. Ito po ay naging award-winning film din po na ang pamagat ay Spotlight. Tukol po ito sa sex abuses na may involvement ng ilang mga kaparian. Na-reveal po dito na yung simbahan ay gumagastos ng malaki para hindi talaga para tulungan yung mga nabibiktima ng ilang mga pare na nangaabusong sexual, kundi para i-relocate yung mga nagkasalang mga pare sa ibang mga parokya at magpatuloy ng kanilang serbisyo, no, sa publiko. Kahit na of course walang trial, wala man lang pangastigo, wala man lang pagparusa doon sa kanilang mga na-commit na kasalanan sa kanilang mga sineserbisyohan na publiko. So, ito ay malaking revelation in the US of A before kasi nakita nila kung paano ina-address sa Roman Catholic Church yung issues na mayroon ito internally. So, ayun po. So, let's move forward. Okay, so I have here a question. No, the Catholic Church made reforms in response to Protestant reformers. What do you think was the reason why, in spite of the reforms promised and instituted, many people fled the church, still decided not to reconcile with it? Kasi 'di ba, yung number one issue naman dyan ay yung indulgence. Pero once na-resolve na yung issue ng indulgence, it was actually outlawed, it was forbidden na. Bakit yung mga umalis hindi na bumalik? Siguro, no, okay, since ito po ay lecture, no, itatanong ko sana sa inyo ito kung tayo ay face-to-face. Pero dahil nga hindi tayo nagkaroon ng ganong pagkakataon because of what happened, no, ay sasagutin ko na po ito. On my end po, I think na hindi na bumalik yung mga umalis dahil meron na silang nakuha na certain amount of power na hindi man kasing laki ng power ng simbahan, pero pwede nilang i-capitalize to their own advantage, no? Totoo na yung Protestant Reformation movement brought about many, no, different interpretations of the Bible, at ito ay nag-lead din sa formation ng iba't ibang mga Christian denominations. Pero ang tanong natin dyan ay nasa na ang mga Christian denominations na ito? Do they still exist now? Ang sagot po ay resounding yes. Nag-e-exist pa rin po sila ngayon at sila po ay talagang marami na. So, ibig sabihin nito, na-capitalize yung power na maliit na nakuha nila from fleeing the church at ito po ay kanilang parang pinuhunan no parang they took advantage of it kasi parang pag nagpasailalim tayo sa church pwede tayong ma-discriminate pa for what we did na pagprotesta laban sa simbahan kahit na we were actually listened to by the church by way of yung pagpo-forbid nga dun sa indulgence pero meron na tayong sariling grupong nabuo, and also the Catholic Church stands sa certain principles na maaring iba yung interpretation natin. So para we might as well just focus on our new group, tapos i-promulgate natin yung katuruan na ito, and let's seek converts. Maghanap tayo ng mga converts and let's see kung saan tatahakin, saan tayo dadalhin ng ating pagsisikap na ito. So it's about power pa rin, no? Power. And aside from that, no, yung minention ko kanina na would be at saka prospective na parang discrimination na pwede nilang maranasan once they reconcile with the church. Kasi of course, we're talking about people here na kahit sabihin na natin na men of God ay pwede pa rin mapoliticize yung mga bagay-bagay. Okay? So once again, please read your LGs from cover to cover. So meron akong mga hindi na-mention dito na mga Protestant reformers at iba pa mga concepts. I focused on Luther kasi compare ko doon sa resulta ng Council of Trent na bahagi ng Catholic Counter-Reformation. Kasi once again, sinabi ko kanina na ang Roman Catholic Church, they also did their own reforms. Nag-reform din sila internally kasi they had to address all the issues being thrown at them by the Protestants. No? So, ang tawag doon, Catholic Counter-Reformation. They were countering Reformation led by the Protestants. At kaya tinatawag na Protestants kasi nagpo-protesta. Nagpo-protesta sila against the authority of the church. Once again, read your LGs from cover to cover. Okay. And we end with this quote from Niccolo Machiavelli, "It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both." So once again, si Niccolo Machiavelli po yung pinagmulan ng English word na Machiavellian. Nang ibig sabihin ay unscrupulous, cunning, na sa Filipino matatranslate natin into tuso, gumagamit ng mga kaparaanan na maaring hindi morally acceptable, pero naniniwala yung leader na ito yung marapat para ma-address yung issue at ma-reach yung goal ng isang bayan. Machiavellian yon, no? At sabi ni Niccolo Machiavelli, yung author ng Prince, ay, "It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both." So, sabi niya na para mas maganda na tayo ay kinakatakutan kaysa tayo ay minamahal kasi well, nakadepende ito sa ating mga interpretation. Pero ako personally, I would say na mas maganda na makuha mo yung pareho. Na parang yung fear ay dapat na nagbubula dahil sa hindi ka gustong ma-offend kasi ikaw ay mahal. Hindi dahil sa natatakot sa'yo dahil, of course, kapag nag-violate sila, meron silang extreme punishment na pwedeng mata mo. No? So, iba kasi yon, no? Iba yung fear na created because they have high respect for you, because they love you, at iba yung fear na created dahil may chilling effect, let's say, yung ginawa mo before na parang nakikita nila na parang nagbibigay ka ng extreme punishment kapag hindi ka nasusunod, for example, magkaiba yon. So parang nakadepende sa kung paano mo gagamitin talaga yung power mo at kung paano mo iaanggulo ito para mag-create ng isang sitwasyon na ikaw ay kakatakutan out of respect and love for you or kakatakutan ka out of talaga yung direct fear, no, dahil sa kung ano yung pwede nilang maranasan from you kapag sinaway nila ang iyong pamumuno. So you might have a different interpretation or understanding of this quote, and it's normal naman kasi bahagi yan ng kung paano natin inuunawa yung mga salita, no, at yung mga konsepto based din sa ating mga sariling experiences at sa sarili nating mga alam. And with that, I would like to thank you for listening to this very, very short discussion on the Reformation. So once again, these two events were very, very crucial in world history kasi these two events paved the way for a more critical populace, no? Kasi nagkaroon sila ng pag-address ng issues nila doon sa isang very well-established na institution, which was the church. Tapos they started to actually get out of the box and started to embrace yung kanilang potential. Maaring itong potential na ito was something na frowned upon by the church, but as long as it actually suits their soul. Kaya nga humanities humanism It's about yung humanity, many colors ng humanity ng mga tao na maaring something na parang hindi talaga totally defined or something na nakapag tinignan mo sa lente ng simbahan ay hindi nila mauunawaan. But as long as it is making you more human, ayun, papasok yan doon sa usapin po natin ng Renaissance and Reformation. So once again, this is I think for the nth time that I will be telling you to read your LGs from cover to cover because we are going to have a mini quiz and a quiz on these two topics po kapag tayo po ay nagkita. And with that, maraming salamat and have a nice day ahead.